happy. Welcome to the Colorful Homeschooler Podcast, where we parlay on productivity, personality, passions, education, and theory. I'm a lover of Jesus, a wife of 20 years, and a homeschool mama of 4 special needs boys who keep me constantly active. I'm so glad you're here to join me. Pull up a chair. There's space for you at this table. Hey, welcome back. So when this episode drops, I will have started my homeschool year. I will be in the first week of school. Let the insanity begin. The insanity and the joy of another year stretched out in front of us, with all the planning and all of the focused thought and all of the picking which literature I was going to use and preparing an art history curriculum for my 9th grader that will cover all of art history in 4 years and all of the other things that went into this year. It's about to begin. Will there be changes? Most definitely. Will some of those changes be annoying or upsetting to me? Yes. Will some of them maybe be a relief? Possibly. So even as a type A planner, I recognize that things are going to change. So give yourself that grace. The beginning of the homeschool year should be full of excitement, but maybe some trepidation for you. So just know that I've been there. I feel it too. And I'm with you, my friend. So there's so much unknown to the start of the new school year. Are we starting any new subjects? Did I get new curriculum? Do we like that new curriculum? How will the schedule that I painstakingly created work out? I've been doing this for a lot of years, so the schedule, that I usually have dialed down. A few electives sometimes fall to the wayside during the school year. Some therapies end, and then we have more time. I may or may not add in more time to that subject, or I may use that extra time now as designated catch-up time. I spoke in my first podcast about not scheduling to the margins, and then again in some of these planning series podcasts. This is an example of that. If a therapy ends, maybe don't fill that time, but instead leave that time as breather, as free reads, as something that we'll talk about today. Leave some time to breathe. Don't schedule to your margins. So as I write this, we're about to head out to the lake to soak up the last bit of summer. Just a few hours, and then this amazing balloon festival that we have in Boise will begin tonight, the Friday of Labor Day weekend. I love this festival. It's one of my favorite things in Boise. The balloons all gather on the lawn of Ann Morrison Park, and they light up the night with their fire and their beautiful colors, and it's just very quintessential Idaho. So I always enjoy that every year. So that will have happened the Friday before you listen to this. Then we're going to do a free weekend of barbecues and end of summer fun. And then after Labor Day, bam, we start that Tuesday, which is the day this podcast comes out. So if you're listening on Tuesday or Wednesday or really whenever, just say a prayer for my first week of homeschooling. I pray for you as well. We begin each day with a hymn and a prayer. Kind of, for me, it sets the tone of what we're homeschooling for. And also, it gives me a reminder to give the day to the Lord. And that's my point for my children, too. I hope they get that. I do pray it. I do say it. So hopefully that is settling in their hearts. I'll actually be posting some day in the life on Instagram of all the different days, because none of the 5 days of the week are alike in my homeschool. So come on over and follow me on Insta to see some of those. I thought it might be helpful for me to let you all know how I leave room in my rigorous and studious homeschool schedule for my children to go after their passions. That could be hard to understand for some type A planners, because maybe you have a state that really requires a lot of checking into your schedule. So how do you map that out? How do you count that for something? And then perhaps you yourself, you're planning out, for example, my 3rd-born's high school schedule, very rigorous because he wants to get into some top-notch schools. So I want to give him the best opportunity to do that I can. A lot of it's on him, of course, but I want to make sure he has the right schedule and the right classes to nail down that application when he's making it, so that it's not because of our homeschool schedule that he doesn't get in somewhere. I want to make sure he has the best shot he can. So, how would I allow time for self-directed learning? So I had to learn this over the years. It doesn't come easily to me. I am a planner, and as I just shared, I'm always concerned about providing the best education. I've also in the past struggled with what others think of my homeschool planning. So when I had younger children, I would be worried if it looked like they weren't doing something standard for schooling. Some of you may not struggle with that at all, and God bless you. I had to come to a place where I didn't struggle with that anymore, and now I feel free of that, but I didn't for a long time. If my children were seen playing during school hours and somebody questioned me, I would feel defensive right away. I would not feel like they would understand that so much play is amazing self-directed learning. So that was a little hard for me. So I want to let you know how I've allowed time for self-direction. And when we allow this time for self-directed passion pursuits, sometimes the outside world can see that it looks like they're doing very little. But it's important to know that self-directed learning is some of the best stuff they can learn. So let's get into that. Why even allow or encourage self-directed learning during school hours? That public school system certainly doesn't do that. They may allow a student to choose the novel that they will report on or decide to do a visual presentation over a written paper, but to build an entire lesson around something they're interested in? No. So why should we? If that's the model, why should we do it? Well, it goes without saying a lot of us have chosen to homeschool because we don't appreciate the results of that model. So why then are we trying to replicate it to the T in our own homeschools? Just a question to chew on. I'm sure many of you have thought that before, and I'm going deeper, I promise, but that's definitely something to bring to mind. When you look at the model of education in the public schools of our nation, and we take our children out because we don't think it's the best setup for a child to rigorously and passionately learn, maybe don't try to replicate that model in your homeschool, right? Make it tailored to your child. So let's continue on with the self-directed learning approach. As an adult, did anyone ever direct you on what you needed to learn? So maybe sometimes for a job, I allow space for that. But honestly, everyone, most of the time as adults, when we seek to learn something, it's because we have a passion or a desire to learn about it. So we go out for lectures, we maybe look at a documentary, we pick up some books, we read some articles, we get a trade publication. We do this because we want to learn. And guess what? That's usually the stuff that you remember for years. So keep that in your mind when we talk about self-directed learning for our children. For example, some of the things I've chased after: gardening. That led me to permaculture, which led me to soil health. Then there was also holistic health, which I'm still very much involved in learning about. Foraging. What is going on in my body nutritionally as I ingest certain things? What foraging can work for holistic health? What does it do for me nutritionally? And how do the two combine? How about running, weightlifting for me? What's the best plan for my body type? I don't want to bulk up, but I do want to tone. So how do I do that? How did I do that in my 30s? How do I now do that in my 40s as my body is changing and my hormones are crazy? What do I do to properly weightlift? How about for your kids? For me, this was autism, ADHD. Should I teach spelling at all to a dyslexic? Sensory concerns. What are the actual sensory systems? How do I meet the difficulties in my child's day from those different sensory systems? How do I help them have calming strategies? What calming strategies work for me? All of this was self-directed. It was me wanting to learn something and going out passionately to find those resources. Now, all of us can acknowledge there are plenty of things that I find interesting that I don't go after with this same viv and vigor, right? But the ones that I chose to, that information sits deep and I remember it. That's the stuff that you deeply care about and you carry it with you. So, of course we should do this for our children. But there are so many requirements, you might say, so many check boxes, so many things I have to do for them. You might feel disingenuous about counting your children's deep dive into dinosaurs as English or grammar or history. Anything other than the easily digestible checkbox of science for a child in love with dinosaurs. Let me show you how to transform your thinking and hopefully open up these worlds to your child. I'll go over a few ways to do this, and hopefully one of them will speak to you. Okay, let's think on the dinosaur child. Science, easy checkbox. History, add in a biography of a great archaeologist. Have the child select it. Do they want to learn about one from America or South America, or how bones were found in Europe? Go down those pathways, ask those questions, and let the child choose what they want to read about. Who do they want to learn about? Maybe a museum curator? Maybe an archaeologist? Maybe a docent at a museum? That's career exploration, social studies. Interviewing that docent, interviewing a field scientist who has studied dinosaurs, interviewing a college professor on archaeology, maybe comparing and contrasting old Earth and new Earth ideas on dinosaurs. Well, that's all language arts. Go on a dig in your area or attend some lectures, watch a documentary. What else does your child want to learn about within this topic? Add in a math curriculum and you're all set. So that's one way to allow for a few weeks of self-directed learning and easily be able to count it truly for all subjects. But for those of us who won't create a basic unit study around a topic our child has interest in, how do we still leave room for them? As my children have gotten older, I've stopped doing the full approach that I just described, and I've started doing it this way. I allow them to select their topic. So for my third born right now, it's flight studies. He wants to be a pilot, so all things flying are fascinating to him. He also wants to learn how to use computer applications like PowerPoint, Excel, and more. So what I did was I assigned those a time frame during the school week. For business computer applications, I assigned 40 minutes once a week. For flight studies, I assigned 1 hour 2 times a week, as well as an online ground school that he is taking Thursday evenings from 4 to 7. Once I have those times mapped out, return back to episode 32, choosing my electives and planning my week, and I go over how I plan out my week using the time slots that I just discussed across all of my subjects. So definitely listen to that if you need some help with that. I plug those into my graph paper charting. That way, I'm setting aside time for him to chase those interests unencumbered. Yes, in this version, he is held by a clock. So he would have to stop hypothetically at the 40-minute mark. However, what I do is I plan those at the end of the school day. So if he does become enraptured by something, he can continue. Our schooling never has homework, so if he loves what he's doing, he can work on it as long as he would like that day or any other day after school. But the time in the homeschool schedule, I think, has to be there to show support, to show that what is important to my child is important to me as well, that I recognize it as true and very important learning. So I can track this easily as an elective in high school, right? But also, you can add in the different unit study mindset whilst allowing my child to actually make the connections himself. So I don't make those connections. I allow him to do so, but then I can track it in the way I would a unit study. Flight studies has a ton of geometrical calculations in it. Check math. This week, he had his first class of 2 on the engines of airplanes. He learned extremely technical details that would be necessary in a life as a pilot. That's engineering and that's science. I found a lecture put on by the former CEO of American Airlines on leadership and the structure of a pilot's life. Well, that's career study and preparation, social studies, economics as well. Listening to the lecture and writing some of his own questions, and then doing a synopsis to add to his flight learning journal, well, that's language arts. So you can deconstruct this learning to fit into all of your checkboxes and then count those hours towards the high school hours necessary for that subject. This may take a change in your thinking to be able to see it, kind of putting on the glasses to be able to see how it fits into different subject matter. But I tell you, it is so worth it to see their passion engaged and see them hone their view on these topics. Maybe it'll be something he does for the rest of his life as he's set on right now. Maybe it won't. But he is going to carry this knowledge with him, that's for sure. And he knows that I support his learning. All of that checkboxing, though, is secondary to the actual learning. It just helps with record keeping. For it to be truly self-directed, he should be picking the desire. He should be picking the passion. I help find these extra things, these lectures, these books, different things like that if he asks me, but he selects which ones to participate in or to take out and read. He chooses the seminars, he picks the books. I don't even go looking for biographies. He has to research and select them. So as they get older, it becomes a little more balanced towards him fully building out the curriculum for the self-propelled interests that he has. Okay, I know what you're saying. Oh, Kathy, that's for an older child. Okay, so what about when my kids were young? They need to participate in self-directed learning there as well. Of course, that's what builds, that's what lays the groundwork for what my son is now doing in high school. My firstborn in high school went down a rapid trail of psychology, which he wound up hating. Well, praise God that we found that out before he started spending money on university credits. He hated it, couldn't stand all the paperwork, didn't like learning about the theories. He more likes social emotional learning and learning about coping strategies and then helping others to find them as well. So that psychology route was not for him. He went down a cooking route. Great. Awesome. He decided he didn't want to go into that as a career, but he's going to be able to do that adulting pretty well. And then graphic design. He fell in love with graphic design. He tried computer coding. He tried HTML and building websites. So all of those allowed for his self-directed passions. And a lot of them he left to the wayside. Some of them he loved. That was another high school example. Back to the younger kids. They need to participate in self-directed learning as well. But let's be honest. Some days they want to learn about butterflies because it's right in front of them. The next day they want to learn about squirrels. Or maybe your child has a prevailing interest that lasts for a semester. It really depends on them as a person. So build this into their learning as well. For the child who switches deep interests every day, build in a 20 to 30 minute time at the end of each day for that interest. You may have them select 4 topics at the beginning of the week. Go to the library, pull books from your shelves, look up biographies on your child's reading level within this topic, and place all of the books, some coloring pages, and any other learning supplements, maybe some experiments, maybe some art projects. Put them in a basket and have basket time each day where your young child selects what they're going to learn about that day. Have some accountability. They have to narrate to you or show some evidence of what they learned. Most days, this was not just free time for my kids. They have free time with no structure, definitely, but this was not it. This was free learning time. So that's how I designated it to them. That was how we phrased it. For those children who change weekly, kind of the same idea. But they can probably go deeper into each topic as they stay focused for a week. So let them look through nature art books, science experiment books, seasonal study books, and let that support their learning as well. I would show my children documentaries and short-form videos to elevate their interest in certain topics that maybe they had a passing interest in prior. I would also try to sneak in some passions to them using some documentaries or short-form videos. Sometimes they worked and sometimes they didn't. I wound up getting really passionate about learning the truth behind recycling and how does it happen? What does it do? How does it work? What is the trash problem across the world? And I must have made them watch like 30 videos on it. And I learned a ton, and my kids can still very aptly talk about it, very intelligently. But for none of them did ecosystems and their balance with garbage created by humans, for none of them did it become a passion project. I'm not sure if any of my kids will be eco-botanists, but as of right now, it doesn't look like it. You never know what's going to happen later, but that's where we're at right now. So that's okay too. You can try to kind of upgrade and support this learning by inserting a couple of things you think they might enjoy. Just be prepared and uninsulted if they don't go for it. Again, after I showed that, I let them take the reins. So it's important to have a gentle balance, even when they're young, between my help and their guiding their own learning. Free learning time, everyone. So this is the way that we've done this in my homeschool for several years, when they were young, all the way up through planning a high school curriculum. Hopefully this was succinct and interesting enough for you to learn something from it. Please write me and let me know if I can go over any other topics for you. I am planning out my fall and winter topics right now. So if you have something you want me to cover, or even just an hour by hour that you want me to go over for my homeschool, then write me and let me know. Kathy@colorfulhomeschooler.com. Follow me on Instagram. I'll be doing some day in the life videos, as well as I try to do some funny and encouraging homeschooling videos. And I also promote my doula business as well. But hopefully all of that speaks to you. Follow me on Instagram and save and follow this show. Share it with a friend. If you write me a review, it actually does a huge amount towards getting it out towards people who are just randomly searching, and then my podcast can grow. If you want me to come speak at a homeschool convention near you, let the homeschool convention know so they can get in touch with me. I am booking dates for 2026, so I would love to come and speak right near you. Thank you so much for listening. Come on back. I have new episodes every Tuesday. And remember, friends, I believe in you.